I'm Rob Skinner, and this is the Rob Skinner Podcast. Today I'm talking to Austin and Sarah Bolvis, missionaries to Berlin, Germany. Find out how God is working in their lives. All this and more on the Rob Skinner Podcast. Welcome back to the Rob Skinner Podcast. My goal is to inspire you to live a no-regrets life, make this life count, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. Austin and Sarah, welcome back to the program.
Thank
Rob.
you.
Good to be back. Thanks for having us.
Yes. Okay, you guys are in Berlin. We were just talking about it last time. That was a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
For those who didn't get to hear the first interview that we had, can you share briefly how you became Christians?
Yeah.
I was born in Tokyo, Japan, actually, while my parents were just young, zealous disciples helping out with the mission team there. And then we moved around a lot, but landed in Seattle ultimately. And I became a disciple when I was 16 in the teen ministry there in the church.
Yeah, and I was reached out to on campus. I was a freshman living at the University of Washington, and some brothers knocked on my dorm room door and invited me to a Bible talk, and I went, and I was like, whoa, people actually love God. This is crazy. I'd grown up in a kind of typical American Christian home where there's belief but not a lot of discipleship. And so I was pretty blown away, started studying the Bible, and yeah, I remember studying discipleship and just being like, that's not me. So how do I become that? And I was pretty hooked after that. And the brothers were super patient with me and had to do like 6 different cross studies to make it. But eventually I was convicted about my sin and compelled by the love of Christ. And that was August 2012, going into my sophomore year of university. I got baptized.
That's awesome. How'd you guys meet?
The first time we met was at a campus devotional, actually, shortly after Austin had been reached out to. And then he became a Christian a little bit later, and we were just great friends for a while. And then one thing progressed to another, and we started dating right before my senior year of college and right before his junior year of college.
Yeah.
So campus ministry at University of Washington.
Yeah. In the same Bible talk, being good friends, and a couple encouragement dates later, and then a couple real dates later, asked her out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, how old are you guys?
I am 32. I'll be 33 this summer.
Yeah, and I'm 34.
Okay. So, and then what years did you guys get married?
2015.
22. Okay, you guys been more than 10 years. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
coming up on 11 years.
How many kids do you guys have?
We have
3.
3 now. We have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and then we had a Berlin baby who is 11 months old now.
That is so exciting. I know I wanted to interview you earlier, but you were just kind of having a baby and everything. So I'm really glad you guys were able to come back into the program. Thank you so much. Okay, last time we talked, I think you were in Boston. I think you were in Boston at the time. You were just talking about Germany. It was on the drawing board. But now you're there. Can you just give before we dive into just talking about your work here in Berlin, can you just give kind of an overview of where you've been since you became Christians, or at least since you met?
Yeah, so we met University of Washington, which is in Seattle, Washington. And so we both became Christians. We both graduated from school there and went straight into ministry. So 2015, I graduated in June. I went into the ministry in June. And we got married in August. She came onto the ministry as well in August that year. So 2015 was busy. And then we stayed there and had an amazing time with the church there, working with young professionals and then campus ministry. And that's where we got appointed. And then had always our sights set on going overseas. It was always on our heart. And Seattle was partnered with the Middle East by the time we were ready to go. And the Middle East just said, hey, we don't really need white Americans coming to spread the gospel. So we were encouraged to look elsewhere and inquire of other places. And that's how European Mission Society popped on our radar, which they extended the hand to say, hey, come work with us and we'll help you find a great place. So they brought us to Boston so that we could work with the Boston church and get to know some of the other folks who are with the European Mission Society and in Europe so that we could identify, hey, where would be a great place for us to land? So we were in Boston for a year and a half, training specifically for the European mission field while helping lead the downtown Boston campus ministry. And then January 2023, moved to Berlin. And we've been here since.
It's been 3 years.
Yeah.
Already 3 years. Isn't that crazy?
It's flown by.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. Okay. First of all, why Germany? I mean, like, when did Germany get on your radar?
Yeah,
That's a great question.
That's really funny. Germany's been in our lives at times in funny different ways. So Sarah's family lived in Germany when she was a little girl. Didn't necessarily put the German mission on her heart. We got married and had missions on our heart. And at the time, Scott and Lynn Green had gone from Seattle to work in Berlin and help the church here. So they were in Germany. And so when we first mentioned missions to the church in Seattle and the staff there, they said, oh, maybe one day we'll send you to Germany. And we were like, okay, that's really cool. But anybody who knows the story of the Greens, Scott got sick. They had to come home. And Lynn's continued to be involved with a lot of things. But by the time we were looking for where to go, Germany was kind of long gone history for us. So we reached out to EMS. Like I said, I said, hey, we'd love to get to know you better before we just ship you off to go somewhere. So come to Boston and we can see what would be a good fit. And in that time, there were some really interesting things happening here in Europe. The couple that had been leading in Berlin really had it on their heart to plant a church in Frankfurt, Germany. And so they decided, hey, we're going to go plant this church. They recruited a few friends to go with them and they went to Frankfurt. And there wasn't really a plan for Berlin yet. They kind of went in faith going, hey, God's going to do something for Berlin.
Well, we accepted the position here before they moved to Frankfurt. They reached out to us.
The timelines look like that. So they committed to going to Frankfurt. They began the move while they were interviewing us.
Okay.
So it wasn't, they went kind of in tandem with us getting interviewed. And so anyways, it was this big door all of a sudden with this church in Berlin that has, been a really important church in Europe for a long time. And suddenly there was a wide open position here. And Berlin is one of those cities that's really friendly to Americans. And the church here was really excited to have a young American couple come in, which, that could be culturally challenging for some churches and a lot of people. So it just ended up being a really good fit. And so when we interviewed, we came and we just felt like, wow, this is totally where we want to be. And there was some pretty, miraculous answered prayers along the way where God just made it totally clear, like, you got to go to Germany. Honestly, it wasn't like big on our hearts or anything. It was just the mission was on our hearts. And slowly God revealed that this was the place, that the doors were open and that he wanted us to be.
But let's talk a little bit. Why were missions on your heart? Where did that come from? Like a lot of Christians, they become Christians, never think about going overseas. Where was that coming from?
Yeah, I mean, for me, most of my childhood, I was moving around a lot overseas. Like I said, I was born in Japan. My family lived in Indonesia for about 2 years. And then we were in 2 different cities in Germany for 2 years. And a big part of me becoming a Christian was seeing faith and discipleship lived out all over the world, despite the culture and the language. And that, even as a young kid, was really inspiring to me. And I had always thought I would love to live overseas again. I didn't necessarily think I'm going to go into the ministry when I was growing up, when I was a teenager. Even in campus ministry, I wasn't really sure that that's what I wanted yet. But I just had a heart for other cultures and other countries. And that was something we actually really bonded over when we were dating, was that excitement about the adventure of living in another place and learning a different language. And so then when God called us into the ministry, that dream really crystallized of this is such a cool way for us to get to live that out, to go spread the gospel somewhere that's not our home country. And I think something else that we felt was we were in a church in Seattle with a lot of resources, a big staff, very stable. And we knew there were churches, especially outside the United States, that didn't have even a fraction of what we were getting to experience. And so I think it really inspired us, this idea to let's go give back. We've been given so much. We've been poured into so much in our ministry experience in the States. Let's go somewhere that doesn't have these kind of resources and really serve in a different way.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'd add anything to that.
To some degree, maybe we just thought everybody wanted this. I remember, I just remember like getting baptized and seeing like the map on Disciples Today, where there's churches all over the world, and I remember just being like, I want to visit these places.
Yeah.
I want to go. Like, how cool that I can go around the world and visit people that will be my brothers and sisters. And it had always just been on my heart to travel and explore other cultures, and I'd always thought it'd be wonderful to live overseas and immerse myself in another culture at some point. And it was a heart of adventure. But then as a disciple, it was something so much more. It was like, these are my brothers and sisters around the world that I can go and connect with. And then when we got into ministry, I mean, it was just like so much clearer. Well, now we're not just going to go and encourage. Now we potentially could go and really serve somewhere and make a difference for God. And so we just, I think maybe just naively thought, surely this is what everyone wants to do. Like, why would any young minister want anything other than to go live overseas and serve overseas? It's kind of the Instagram adventure, go overseas and be somewhere.
Oh, I love it.
So I just thought everybody wants this.
Absolutely love it. Oh,
yeah.
I wish they did. I think that's awesome and inspiring, and I think that's fantastic. Okay, so let's dial it back to 3 years ago. Where was the church at when you landed in January of 2023? Can you give me a snapshot? Size of the church, health of the church, what was going on in the church? How long had they been without leadership? Just kind of paint the picture of what you're walking into.
Yeah. So we were given one picture and we walked into another. The couple that had been leading, yeah, right. It's always that way. But the couple that had been leading, they're great. They're still great friends of ours. They're still leading in Germany, and we are really in touch with them. But they had left like permanently 6 months before, but they had been transitioning for almost 9 months at that point, maybe even 10 months. And so it was a long time with just lay leaders. And when you have people who aren't trained leaders, things come up and don't get dealt with, or things get messy. And so we came into a leadership team that was really excited to receive us and really welcoming.
Yeah.
But instantly
working really hard.
But instantly we were just like, there's so many little dysfunctional things. There's so many inefficiencies and so many things that to us, it seems so obvious, like just do it this way. But they didn't necessarily always see it that way. And we felt sometimes kind of like, well, can we say that? We're the new guys. We're supposed to kind of be coming in with a really soft touch to learn the German culture. But there was this odd tension of like, we're trying to learn how you do things in your culture, but we've also spent at that point 7 years being trained how to do this job. And we're the only ones in the room who've spent years being trained how to do this job. And so that created a bit of a tension internally at times, where we just felt like how much to do, how much not to do. And that first 2 years was just figuring that out. And our leadership team went through tons of transition. On paper, the church was like about 145 when we took it over. It was very apparent right away. That's not an accurate number. I mean, at church, we're closer to 120. So where is everybody? The leadership team was, like I said, kind of not quite sure how to fully function, especially without somebody who was sort of a key leader. So Valder Koha, who you've had on the podcast before, he's served in Europe and served on leadership teams. So he came into Berlin, and he was definitely like big brother to us. We called him and said, hey, bro, like we need some help. We're trying to figure out this dynamic. You're a German. You've served in American churches. Could you come and help us as Americans serve in a German church? And I couldn't sing the praise of Valder enough, how much he did that first year. He visited us. Him and Irene visited us twice, I think, in that first year, and sat with our leadership team, sort of walked them through like this is what a functional leadership team should be. And this is why you need to maybe give the Bolvises a little bit more rein than you thought you would this early on. Like, can you really trust this young couple that you hired? To the praise of our leadership team, they did. They trusted us. Yeah, we felt like we were able to start figuring out what does it mean to lead a church in a leadership team, be an evangelist on a team. Because that's a very key identity to European leadership, is there's not somebody leading the church, but it's leadership teams and roles. And so we were trying to figure all that out at once. Now, I'm sounding very positive, but the truth is it continued to be messy. There were some members of our leadership team that felt like it was no longer for them to serve in that way. A few people that were wrestling with some serious theological issues and had to step out. A few people wrestling with some personal issues that had to step out. So we went from a really big leadership team to last year we ended up being just like 4 people.
Yeah.
So it's just a leadership couple
D group.
like with another couple. And so that was like in a different way, somewhat dysfunctional. We got along really great with that couple, and they're some of our best friends. But then we realized now we have a different problem. Now we're not trying to like reconstruct. We're actually just really rebuilding. So 2025 was a lot of rebuilding and going, okay, now we can actually make this what we want, make it something healthy for the church. And so really, yeah, last year was a lot of building that. Mm-hmm. What do we want leadership to look like in the Berlin church? What does the Berlin church need? What does the Berlin church want? What's our biblical conviction about how to build a leadership team? If we get to do it from the ground up, how are we going to do it? So, yeah.
How's it going with the language?
Austin has been preaching fully in German for 2 years now.
2 years now.
He is leading all of our leadership team meetings, or at least Bible Talk leaders meetings, and our leadership team meeting last night, all in German. He's crushing it. I'm about to do my first full sermon for our Women's Day in German. I had a little less opportunity to practice that. It's a challenging language for sure. It's very different grammatically than English. Understanding is, I think we're both at a spot where that's a lot easier now. We can sit through something and understand what's going on. Speaking, especially in a casual conversation, is still really challenging.
Yeah. It's close enough to English. You pick up on a lot of words. To get to a point of understanding is fairly quick, but then grammatically it's complex. What's nice about preaching is nowadays you can use AI and you can translate stuff and you can prepare it ahead of time. Even Bible studies, you always kind of know the topic. So that actually really helps. I think being in the church helps. And I can say that Germans are very excited about people speaking their language. So you can make tons of mistakes and they'll be like, hey man, thanks for trying, bro. So it was a really great place to learn a language. Germany, I think as a whole, that's probably true from what I know, and definitely in the church here.
Incredibly gracious and patient.
Yeah, it is tricky, and it's interesting. I always say, I'm like, man, there's so many things that if we could lead in English, I feel like I could just handle more, and I could just quickly react to, and everything, it slows me down. It makes me like, do I know what I'm saying? Or I get out of a meeting and I'm like, I think it went this way. And then one of the German speakers goes, no, man, it kind of went this way. And I was like, oh, really? I think I missed like a key word. So we're getting there, but it is definitely a challenge.
Absolutely.
I had German in high school, and I just remember the verbs go at the end of the sentences, don't they? You have to wait in suspense to the end of the sentence to figure out what's actually happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you lose track of that verb, you get to the end, and sometimes you got to put 2 or 3 at the end, and you're like, sometimes I even lose me, and I get to the end of the sentence, and I just look around with a blank stare, and the Bible Talk leaders help me out. They're like, you're looking for this word. I'm like, yeah, thanks.
That's awesome. That's incredible. You're preaching. That's great. And you guys are you're just way ahead of the game. That's fantastic.
We're trying.
How have you seen God at work? Any miracles that you've seen? Any bright spots? You go, man, this is God. I can see his footsteps.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely miracles.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, our first year here was it was challenging. We're adjusting to a new place, a new culture. We've got family stuff going on back in the States. And we're trying to figure out, what direction do we even start going in? And so in 2013, we had 0 baptisms in the
2023.
Berlin church. Is that what I said? 2023?
2023. Yeah.
2023, we had 0 baptisms in the church. And then in 2024, God just really started revealing a lot, exposing a lot of things. And that process wasn't always fun. He was revealing a lot of even areas of repentance in the church, in the leadership team, some things that we'd been trying to put our finger on that we just couldn't. And then God kind of blew the doors wide open on. And we just started getting a lot of input and really just dealing with things, trying to deal with things in a biblical way. And it was amazing because in the first 6 months of 2024, we saw 8 people get baptized.
It's awesome.
And
Wow.
finished that year with 10 conversions. We had 2 more people get restored in the church. And the difference between, the number of baptisms isn't the only indicator of health in a church or spiritual growth, but I think that showed us, okay, God is turning this into a place where it's safe for new souls to come in, and we're going in the right direction. We're doing the right things. And the difference between 2023 and 2024, it just built our faith so much, as we were sometimes just grinding it out and looking at each other going, what do we even do right now? That was a really faith-building time, even through some challenges.
And also, Rob, I know you spent some time as a missionary in Japan, so you can relate to this, but there's just such a cool thing about the miracle of somebody who's just never heard the gospel becoming a Christian.
Yeah.
We've been able to experience that multiple times. In fact, this morning I had a Bible study with a guy who grew up no exposure to Christianity, just none. And we're studying the Bible, and we're looking at like a sin list, and he's just seeing some of these things for the first time, going, "Oh, that's a sin." But this kid is hungry for God. He came to faith through kind of slowly studying the Bible at the beginning, and then you just see, like, once they accept, like, wait, Jesus is real and died on a cross. It's like, boom, this light turns on, and they're just like, anything in this book I will do if God is real. And it's just so cool to see that. And I think it's a huge blessing for us to be in a place that really the gospel hasn't been preached to a lot of people. Berlin, Germany is still a fairly Christian state, but Berlin was divided for a long time. And East Berlin, systematically, there was no Christianity.
Yeah,
And you
completely
still
atheist.
experience that here. And so we have people in the church here who grew up in East Berlin back when it was divided, before the wall came down, and they had no religious background. And we're interacting maybe kind of with the next generation of that, kids who were born to the parents raised in East Berlin. And so there's truly kids who we meet on campus who they've just like never seen a Bible.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, we're in the Western world, and they've walked by churches 100 times, but they don't know a single story from the Bible. They don't know anything. And so the miracle of seeing these just complete, almost not even atheists, they've never even thought about it. They never even made a
Blank
conscious
slate.
choice about religion, confronted with like, oh, I don't know what I believe. And coming to faith. We've seen that a few times, and it's just such a unique joy to see the gospel move that way.
Always like blew me away in Japan. Like I'd run into people that hadn't even thought about God or spirituality or, hey, what am I doing here? Where am I going? Like
Mm-hmm.
they're like, oh, wow, I haven't thought about that. I'm like, you haven't even thought. I mean, not
Yeah,
just Christianity or Jesus, but just like you haven't like thought like kind of big picture, like what's going on. Just
Mm-hmm.
I would just be like amazed, like, wow, okay, this is different. I'm in a different country. What's
Absolutely.
yeah.
ironic about Germany is it's got such an incredibly deep, famous, rich spiritual heritage. I mean, it's the home
Mm-hmm.
of Martin Luther. I mean, not all of them, but many of the famous theologians come straight out of Germany. You've got Dietrich Bonhoeffer. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. Anyway, I don't want to go off on a tangent. Okay. What's been most challenging for you guys since arriving 3 years ago?
Probably very different answers for us.
Yeah. For me, 6 weeks after we moved here, My dad was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic cancer. And it was a complete shock to the system of my family. The first year was really scary. He was in and out of the hospital a lot, had to kind of relearn how to walk after the cancer on his spine had attacked his legs. It was a really uncertain time. And I think for me, having just landed in this foreign country with 2 little kids, um, in a church that we were kind of like, this isn't exactly what we thought it was gonna be. What are we doing? I really had to wrestle with why is this God's plan? And it was really, I think, challenging, knowing even before we had moved, this cancer was in my dad's body, but God chose to not reveal that until after we'd come here. And I wrestled a lot with, should we even stay? Is this, am I a bad daughter if I choose to continue to live halfway around the world? My brother and sister-in-law were heroic and moved back in with my parents for most of that first year after my dad was diagnosed to help, which was incredible. And I carried a lot of guilt for not being there. But it was really amazing because my dad is a faithful disciple. And one of the first conversations I had with him after that diagnosis, he said, "Sarah, don't you dare come back. God sent you there. God wants to use you guys. I'm going to be okay, but you're where you're supposed to be." And that was just so incredible that his faith, even though selfishly, I know that he wishes we were down the street and he could see our kids every day and all of that. And we don't know how long he has. Miraculously, he is relatively stable right now. We're almost exactly 3 years from his diagnosis, and he's still in treatment and doing okay. And we do everything we can to make trips back. My mom and dad have been able to come visit us twice since we've been here. But that's something that has really, I think, defined in some ways our time here, is wrestling with our calling to be here and also how we continue to support and be present for what's happening back home in the States. And I think it's something I didn't expect to have to wrestle with in that way, but it's really deepened my reliance on God and my trust in how he takes care of things that just feel really out of our control. So that's what I would say has been the most challenging.
Yeah. So that's been a huge challenge for the whole family, me included, and us navigating that. I don't feel the daily heaviness of that the way my wife does, of course. I think I feel more the daily heaviness of some of the ministry challenges more. And one of the big challenges moving was the language immediately. That was a challenge, and it still is at times, just feeling like, man, I feel like it's like playing a sport with like ankle weights on. Like, if I could just, like a weight vest, like if I could just take this off, like I could do so much more. Then I also realized I had a pretty strong revelation last year where I was wrestling with God, like, I want to see the church grow, and I want to do my job better, and you called me here, and I'm trying. And I had to be really humble with myself and before God and just go, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've been a campus minister, and yeah, I've been trained, and yeah, I'm okay. I'm an evangelist in the kingdom of God, and that's cool. But I've never led a whole church. I've never led a whole church and made it grow. I mean, I've never led a leadership team. I've never led Bible Talk leaders meetings for adults every other Sunday. Like, there's so many things I've just never done. And I had to really get humble. And we're super blessed because of that time in Boston. We're still connected with the church in Boston. And so I was able to call Kevin Miller and go, dude, wait a second. Like, what am I doing here? Can you help me? I need to learn so it's kind of what it's like one of those, like, you don't know what you don't know things, and I just realized I don't know anything, and I need to figure this out, and so I was able to have some phone calls with some guys back in Boston, and we have lots of relationships here in Europe that we've been able to have conversations like that with,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think one of the biggest challenges for me has been really trying to be humble about what I don't know and trying to learn and and then have the boldness to go, "No, okay, now I know what to do. Am I going to do it? Am I going to be bold enough to bring this to my church and ask them to have faith with me and do this with me and ask them to do it in German, which is harder for me to communicate my emotion and my passion, but can I do this?" And so I think that's been a big challenge for me is just kind of trying to get out of my own way and going, I don't know what I don't know, but that's not an excuse. It's on me to make sure I go learn that stuff. It's on me to make sure if I'm put here in this church, God is asking me to be a good servant who goes out and learns that stuff and takes care of his people. I can't be a shepherd who goes, I don't know how to be a shepherd, but thanks for all these sheep. I really got to be like a diligent shepherd who goes out and learns what it means. And so that's been a really fun challenge, but it was challenging. It was challenging my character and it's challenging to my leadership.
It's interesting how God seems to do that with regularity, and you use all of the skills, all of the tricks, all of the tools in your tool belt. You go through all of them, and then one day you realize you've done everything. You've tried everything that you knew.
Yeah.
You've exhausted your whole inventory of capabilities and techniques to do ministry, and then you're just left with like, hey, God, you gotta come through here. There's something that you're going to have to do. And
Yeah.
I just, it's happened so many times in my ministry career. And I just think he does that to confirm what he says in John 15 that, apart from me, you could do nothing. So that's just a really interesting
Mhm.
process. So good for you. But it's a tough feeling. You feel really empty and you kind of confronted with your limitations, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
While we're talking about that, what has helped you guys in the midst of this with your father, with Greg being sick,
Mm-hmm.
having three kids, ministry challenges, language challenges? How have you kept up optimistic? How have you been
Mm.
able to grow spiritually in the midst of that? Like, what's helped you? You
Mm.
guys seem like you're doing really good right now. I mean, I'm getting a great vibe from you guys. What's helped you to maintain that?
So many things. Probably the first thing, there's three things that I think jump to my mind. But the first one is I just love my wife. Like, I think our marriage has always been a huge strength of ours. I just,
We're best friends.
like, we knew going into this, like, we're going into this together. And no matter what's come at us, our marriage has stayed a priority. And
Mm-hmm.
we've had people who've been there to look out for that for us and make sure that our marriage is healthy and strong. But I think I'm just so grateful for even those early years in Seattle that helped build that
Yeah.
foundation. The Whitakers who, first discipled us when we were dating, and then Darren and Carla Overstreet who did our pre-marriage counseling, and they were our disciplers our first year of marriage. I just feel like we have so much foundation, wisdom from her parents and her grandparents who, her grandfather and her father have both been elders in the church. And
Yeah.
I really do feel like, man, so much of our stability comes from God, and then the fact that our marriage is stable.
Yeah.
I just feel like you can weather a lot when your marriage is strong.
Totally
Yeah.
agree.
I completely
100%.
agree. Austin has been such a rock um for me and for our family. I've just seen him be so diligent in even learning how to lead a church, but then also really lead our family. And he's been such a safe place for me as I've kind of gone on a little bit of a roller coaster at times emotionally through another pregnancy and another baby. And just his conviction to be the man that God calls him to be, to lay down his life like Christ did for the church, for me and for our kids, I think um is is such a huge part of why I still feel like this is a joyful season and something I really am passionate about is so much because of the man that Austin is very humbly striving to be. So yeah.
That's awesome. Sarah, you've had 2 kids before,
Mhm.
all are under the age of 5. Someone who's listening, they've got kids, they're like, "Oh, I'd love to do what they're doing, but I don't know if I can do that with kids." How have you managed it? Like, give a little bit of wisdom here on your mindset coming in as a mother on the mission field, and on top of the fact that you've got the younger generation to take care of, and you had
Mhm.
your dad who's been sick.
Yeah,
Tell me a little bit about what's helped you.
that's a great question. I mean, I think first and foremost, and this feels almost cliche to say, but I think just being completely rooted in God, that I am nothing if I have not been filled with the Holy Spirit on a daily basis. Because it takes a lot. Motherhood is exhausting. Taking care of people in the church, it's such a beautiful calling, but it's also draining and it's exhausting. And then all of the stuff with my extended family, obviously. And so I think that's something that I've just had to ground into a lot more in the uncomfortability of being here is I just can't do anything unless I am so deeply rooted in God. And then, a little, I guess, more practically speaking, I think my attitude is you just do it. Like and you bring your kids along with you. We don't have a car. We take public transportation all over the city. So, we on a Friday night, if we have a devotional at our church building, we commute about 45 minutes one way with all 3 of our kids, and it's just a normal part of our life, and they love it. They're so excited. And I think a lot of it has to do with our attitude of how we talk about the church, how we express our joy, not only in our discipleship, but in the work that we're doing here. Because our kids make sacrifices too. They stay up late. They, go to bed, and then we have a meeting afterwards. And if they need something, we got to hurry up and get them down so that we can have our meeting. But I think having the resilience to believe even if I can do hard things and I bring them along, they can do hard things too. But it can be a joy. And I think really tapping into the joy that God calls us to have. I've seen that help me as a mother, and as a minister, and help our kids feel like this is a joyful life we're living. We're not living this hard, suffering life of daily tribulation. That it's fun and it's cool that we get to live in this different place, and it's awesome that we spend so much time with the church. That's really on both of our hearts, I think. But it starts with me having to really dig deep into that and find that so that I can, illustrate that for our kids.
Totally agree with you. I just feel like it's just a great, great short motto. Just bring them along. I mean,
Yeah,
just that's the way to
exactly.
do it. Don't make your kids the sole focal point of your life and
Yeah.
make their bedtimes the ultimate, appointment for every single
No,
day.
they'll be
Just
okay.
just bring them into they'll be okay. Just bring them into your life. And I read a book by Nassim Taleb. He just he used the phrase anti-fragile and how we're designed to
Mm,
get stronger when we're tested. We're
absolutely.
designed to bounce back, and your kids get stronger when they're gradually stretching themselves and realize they're not the center of the world. Jesus is the center of the world. And so
Yeah.
Hmm.
anyway, I'm not going to get off my sermon high horse here.
I love it, man.
Great,
No,
great example.
amen to all
Okay,
that.
so what advice would you give to a person who wants to make this life count? You guys are definitely making your life count. What advice would you give?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think I've been chewing on a piece of advice that Kevin Miller gave me recently, and it's really helped me. And I think it's carried me through all my ministry years, and it's helping me now. But we lead people. Like in leadership, we lead people. We don't lead churches. We don't lead systems. We don't lead church services. We're in the people business. That's what Jesus did. He loved people. He led people. He served people. I just think anybody can make their life count if they're willing to make sacrifices to love people around them, love the lost around them, love their neighbors, love their family. That's really what this is. And maybe you feel a call to do something big and bold and faithful, like move to a foreign country. And hey, Berlin would be happy to have anybody listening who wants to come. But to be honest, it's just as faithful sometimes to open your mouth at the grocery store and love the person next to you picking out cereal for their kid. It's just as faithful to open your mouth and ask the guy at the gym if he needs a spot because you're looking for an easy way to start a conversation to share your faith. Really, it's just as faithful. And we lead people and we love people. And if you want to make your life count, you got to just look around and see the people around you and find ways to love them the way Jesus would.
Amen. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think my piece of advice, kind of in line with what I was just sharing, I think that our culture, our world has become so fixated on finding what's comfortable, and on creating boundaries in their life that really just protect them from discomfort. And being a foreign missionary is one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever done. Even just the daily inconveniences of trying to navigate in another language how to get our Wi-Fi set up, or
that was the biggest challenge of living in Germany.
Yes,
getting Wi-Fi.
Getting Wi-Fi
That's my
was
new
really
answer.
hard. Or trying to engage with the moms when I pick up Rowan and Addie who are speaking in German, and I still feel insecure about my German. And everything in between, I think that it's so easy, even as a faithful disciple, to just get comfortable and to steer into what is familiar to me, what feels safe, what feels, I think there's all of this messaging about protecting your peace and letting go of things that don't serve you. And I just don't see that in the Bible at all. I see faithful men and women embracing discomfort and running into spaces that aren't familiar, so that they can build their faith in God, and so that God can use them in ways that they don't maybe see. And so that, I think, is something that I'm trying to do more and more all the time. But that would be what I would call people to, who are thinking about, how do I make my life count? What could I do for God? Steer into discomfort and watch God do miracles in ways that our limited comfort zones wouldn't allow us to otherwise.
You're into discomfort. Okay, there's a soundbite. That's an amazing, amazing thought. Guys, you guys are killing it. It's great to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on the program. If people wanted to contact you, if they have interest in doing missions, maybe in Germany, how could they reach you?
Yeah, if anybody goes on to Disciples Today, if they're familiar with that, they can look up the Berlin Church and the email there will come to my email address. That's the easiest way people will remember. You could directly reach out, austinbolvis@gmail.com or sarah.bolvis@gmail.com. Yeah, those would be probably the best ways to get a hold of us, and we would be happy to hear from anybody. I'm not really on any other social media. I guess
you can DM me on Instagram. Sarah Marie Bolvis is my handle. Reach out on Facebook, but yeah, probably the email through our website here in Berlin is the most straightforward way, I guess.
Thanks for coming on the program.
Thanks for having us,
Rob.
it.
And thanks for listening. Here's how you can help support the program. First, sign up for my weekly newsletter. I want to keep in better touch with 10X Christians just like yourself. So you can do that at my website, robskinner.com. Secondly, read and review my latest book, The 10X Christian. You can find it on amazon.com or by going to my website at robskinner.com, because my goal is to inspire you to live a no regrets life, make this life count, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. Have a great day and make this life count.